Welcome to Eye on You. As the saying goes, it takes 10 years to nurture a tree, but 100 years to cultivate a talent. According to Hong Kong Education Bureau, secondary education aims to enable students to develop knowledge, positive values, and attitudes, as well as generic skills, and become a responsible citizens, and to prepare them for further studies or work to make contribution to Hong Kong and the nation. As a bridge between the students for university education, secondary education plays a very important role in fostering both virtue and talent. So how does St. Paul's College, with its long history, build on its strength and make up for the shortcomings in today's Hong Kong education system? Today, we have invited Mr. Dennis Yuen, the principal of St. Paul's College, to talk about his experience and his views on secondary education in Hong Kong. Hi, Mr. Yuen. Welcome to our show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for a warm welcome on such a cold day.
Yes. Can you tell us more about yourself? Because as we all know that you are the principal of St. Paul College, and can you tell us how do you become the principal of St. Paul College?
I was actually born and bred in Hong Kong, and after completing Form 7 or matriculations in Hong Kong, I went to Australia to continue my tertiary studies. Mm-hmm. Majoring in English literature and psychology, very rare choices at that time. And then after coming back to Hong Kong, I started teaching English and religious studies at St. Paul's College. And now I am the principal of the college, and I'm also the chairman of Grant Schools Council, which consists of 22 very reputable schools in Hong Kong.
So how many years you have been teaching?
Well, it has been about 30 years. I have served the college for 30 years, a college that I am very proud of in my teaching life, really.
Wow, it's a very long path for you then.
It is. It's like second home to me now, really. And I spend my formative years really at the college.
So you know inside out about your school, about the college. So can you tell us more about the school and what is the strength of the college?
Well, I'm sure you know St. Paul's College is actually the oldest school in Hong Kong. It was founded in 1851 by the Anglican Church, which is now known as the Hong Kong Shin Kong Hui. Last year, we celebrated our 170th anniversary, and we have been educating younger generation of Hong Kong for 170 years. The mission of the school is to provide bilingual, quality and all-round education for young people of Hong Kong based on Christian principles. And currently, St. Paul's College is located at Bonham Road, which is opposite Hong Kong U, where most of our students go to for their further studies. And we often joke about the fact that it's very easy for them to go to Hong Kong U because they just need to cross the road. So this is a rough introduction of St. Paul's College. And of course, as you probably know, we have a lot of very famous alumni. And some of the names known to you are people like Mr. Zhang Yuxing and Zhang Daxing, Mr. Lau Xiugai, and Mr. Ma Haofei. And in the medical field, perhaps some recent names that might have come to your notice are people like Professor Hui Sicheng and Dr. Zhang Keiyan.
Wow, there are lots of famous people in the school.
Yes. We actually have different alumni in different sectors of society because basically St. Paul's College is a very liberal school. We provide a lot of autonomy, freedom and opportunities for our students to explore their interests and their strengths through a wide variety of learning programs that we provide. We understand that each student is unique, and so we provide them with lots of choices, lots of opportunities, so that they can get to know more about themselves and find their own niche. And that's why our graduates, they all work in different sectors of societies, ranging from people in the legislative council to the medical field, to the business sectors, or lawyers, teachers, and social workers.
So as I know that after the matriculation, you went abroad for further studies.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about this experience and how does it change your perspective?
I think I went to Australia after Form 7, and my overseas experience was very valuable to me in that sense. Of course, having studied and worked there for a few years, I get to know more about the differences between Australia and Hong Kong in terms of people's attitude towards work, towards life, towards marriage and family relations. But more importantly, I think when I was a student, that was in the 80s, I had a lot of friends from Singapore and Malaysia. Yeah. And it was the very first time I found out from my friends that at that time, Hong Kong was actually held in very high regard by people from Southeast Asia because of all the Kung Fu films, all the cantopopes and TV series, drama series, and our very strong economic developments. So they literally look up to people from Hong Kong. And I was, for the first time, very proud of Hong Kong and its achievement. It's rather sad, perhaps, that nowadays this kind of self-confidence is a bit lacking in Hong Kong. The second thing that I want to mention, of course, is the fact that a lot of my Singaporeans and Malaysian friends are also, they were very proud of their own country. Yeah. Again, that's something I did not share. My Singaporean friends were proud of being a Singaporean, and my Malaysian friends were very eager to teach me how to sing the national anthem, the Negaragu. I didn't share that pride because at that time Hong Kong was under British rule, and I was neither a British citizen nor a Chinese citizen, and the only kind of national anthem I knew was God Save the Queen. And so I guess it was the first time I experienced that identity crisis in Australia with all my friends from Singapore and from Malaysia, and I suddenly realized that that this lack of national identity is actually very important to us.
Yes, so you have been studied in Australia in the 80s, and we are after the handover, after 97, and after the national security law has been enacted. So how do you see the difference between on the education system, especially after we have enacted the national security law?
I think if we talk about education now, I think the education system in Hong Kong should actually be more rooted in Chinese culture. And in that sense, I think we should help our students to perhaps appreciate more about the culture, the language, and the history of China. And I think that is important for them to understand, to have this sense of pride for their own national culture. I think this is important because after all, Hong Kong it's a very international city. We played a very important role as what they call a super connector. Yeah. And for us to be able to explain to the West our Chinese way of thinking, we have to have this understanding of our own culture, of our own history. We have to have this sense of pride for who we are before we can explain to the Western people the Chinese way of thinking. And so I think that is important for Hong Kong education system here to be more rooted in the Chinese culture.
So how do you compare the education system between Hong Kong and other countries? What is our strength in Hong Kong?
Actually, Hong Kong education system has a lot of strength. As I said before, because Hong Kong is an international city. One of the strengths of our education system lies in the fact that we provide very good training for our young people so they can actually navigate very comfortably in two different cultures. We provide good training in languages, in English and in Putonghua. And Hong Kong, by and large, is a very bilingual city. And government officials, of course, are expected to make announcements or answer questions in English, in Cantonese, and increasingly in Putonghua. Right. And so because of this kind of training that we provide for our students, Hong Kong students in many ways are actually more competitive than our counterparts perhaps in mainland China and also in the West, because we can actually navigate in two different cultures and we understand the differences in the way people think. Secondly, I think Hong Kong as an international city has its own strength in the sense that schools in Hong Kong provides a lot of opportunities for Hong Kong students to have a more global perspective through a lot of exchange programs or overseas study trips. And that is important because Hong Kong is really an international city, and Hong Kong students should have this global perspective. And last of all, something that we must emphasize is that Hong Kong has a very, very strong and brilliant university system or tertiary system. Many of our universities have very high ranking in the world. And given the fact that Hong Kong is such a small place with only 7 million people, that I think is an amazing achievement, and I think Hong Kong people should be very proud of.
Yeah. As a principal in school, because many of the school complained that they didn't admit enough students for the school to run it. So looking at the low bond rate in Hong Kong, so can you tell us more about the challenges or the difficulties when running a school?
Yes, there are, of course, difficulties and challenges, and people often talk about the declining number of students, right, and also the problem of brain drain. Of course, these are some of the issues that we have to face. But I think we also need to look at the bigger picture, perhaps. One of the challenges, I think, for education system in Hong Kong is the fact that we are perhaps not keeping up with the changes of the world. To many people, Hong Kong education system is still quite exam-oriented. And it gives people the wrong impression that high school education is basically preparing students for university studies, which is not quite right because the world has changed so much that university education or a degree is no longer a passport for success or a ticket for better jobs. I think COVID-19 has taught us very important lessons in a sense that the world is very uncertain and it demands adaptability and flexibility. So instead of just preparing students for university studies, we should also think a little bit beyond that and ask ourselves questions. What are some of the qualities and attributes that our young people need in order to survive or to succeed in this future world, which is basically a VUCA world, a world that is volatile, a world that is full of uncertainties, it's very complex, and it's also ambiguous. And so I think we need to think more carefully about how we should equip our students so that they have the agencies to survive and to succeed in this future world, which is full of changes.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you have said, especially to how to equip the right skills for them to go to work in the modern world. So as what you have said, they are preparing to get into tertiary education. How about the vocational training? Because some of them, they might not want to go to the tertiary right away. So how do you see the vocational training is important to them?
It's important because people are different. People have different interests, people have different abilities. And I think it's important to have that flexibility to allow students to choose what is the best for them. And so I think vocational training and university studies should actually go in parallel, really, and for people to choose. And I think people need to have a different mindset and to understand that vocational training is not in any way inferior to university studies. I think they should all lead to the same way.
Yeah. So Mr. Yuen, so how do you see the future plan of the secondary education in Hong Kong?
As I said before, I think it is important for Hong Kong education system to be rooted in the Chinese culture. The Hong Kong students should learn to appreciate, understand our own Chinese culture, at the same time to understand all the development in China, particularly the Greater Bay Area, and a lot of the developments in China itself. But I think more importantly also is that as an international city, Hong Kong students should also have a more national and global perspective. Right. They should be made aware of some of the bigger issues facing humanities. Issues such as, poverty, quality of education, water quality, climate change, and all that. They should understand how our nation tackle these issues in relation to what other people are doing in other countries. And they should also make to know that their university education is not about making money. It's not about getting a better job, but it's about using what they have learned and to work on these problems affecting humanities. In other words, I think university education is not about choosing a career, but in actual fact, I think it's about finding their calling, finding an issue that they feel passionate about, something that they really want to work on, either to make Hong Kong a better place or to make the nation a better place or the world a better place. And no matter in what profession they are in, they should feel passionate about some of the issues facing humanities. I think that's important for our Hong Kong students. Thirdly, I think we have recently a lot of emphasis on STEM and STEAM. And of course, science and technologies are important for the development of China and for the development of the world. But people need to know that sometimes science and technologies are double-edged swords. They can be solutions to a lot of issues, but at the same time, they can also be part of the problems. I still remember Tim Cook saying that about computers and AI. He said, I don't mind artificial intelligence and computers thinking more and more like humans. But I do mind that human people are thinking more and more like machines, without any compassion, without any concern for consequences. And so, science and technology can be very powerful, but at the same time, they can, used in the wrong hands, they can be very disastrous. So while we put a lot of emphasis on science and technology, I think values education is equally important. And of course, when we talk about values education, it has a lot to do with a system of belief. But at the same time, values are also cultivated through humanities subjects. Yeah. Humanities subjects such as liberal arts, such as visual arts, music, literature, history. These are called humanities because they make people more human. You learn to understand people's feelings and emotion and sentiments. And I think that's why in Hong Kong there should be an equal emphasis on science and technology as well as in humanities, so that we have a balanced development. And using the right tools, we can learn to make the world a better place. And that, I think, should be the direction of our education system.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Yuen.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so we have a bigger picture on how the secondary education can go for the future and to understand about your school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.